Good morning, church. Uh, I was just going to tell y'all my testimony. When I was about 10 years old, I was saved, and me and my dad got baptized together. And then I kind of steered away, and I had a buddy of mine's wife send me a Bible verse, and it got me back into church.
So I grew up in church here, actually. I moved here when I was in 5th grade, and my grandmother brought us, so we were here every time the doors were open. I was actually saved during a vacation Bible school. It was my 6th grade summer, and I remember standing in that sanctuary singing songs, and I just knew that it was my time. It was my time for me to become one of his, but I was scared to death to walk down that aisle. So we're singing the songs, and I just felt that urge. I was pulled into that aisle. I walked down the aisle, and there stood Chris Jenkins with his arms wide open, just took me in, gave me the biggest hug ever, talked to me, and led me to Christ. I was then baptized. In my teen years, all of my cousins, which they all attended here too, they moved away, and then the ones that were still local had gone to another church. My brothers and I had gone to another church because that's where our friends were, and we just kind of left and moved on. Within that time, I started taking care of Lexi, not Bus, big Lexi, and just started to drift away from church. I had got married at a very young age, and I had her, so I just kind of had a lot on my plate. I was in a very unhealthy marriage, a very toxic situation. Eventually got divorced and still had Lexi and his cousin. So I had 2 kiddos at a very young age, working, going to school, just did not have time, didn't make time for church. I knew I needed to be in church and that I wanted the girls in church, but just didn't take the time to make it work. But we would go on occasion to a couple of churches in Paducah, but I never committed. I was then in another toxic relationship, and Lexi had decided to move back home with her mother, and my ex's cousin graduated high school, so it was almost like empty nesters. I felt empty and lonely. I mean, I knew it was the devil doing everything he could do to keep me from being where I needed to be. I finally left that relationship and met Lonnie, and he was a member of his house in Mayfield. We had gone a couple of times, but we weren't active and we didn't commit to the church. Shortly after we married, we bought our home, which is, right next door. Do you think we finally came to church? No. My grandma kept asking us to come, and I'd find every reason not to come. We were busy, we had something to do, family, friends, but I just couldn't commit. Then I found out I was pregnant with Kendall, and Lexi actually came back to live with us. And we both wanted to raise our children in a Christian home, so we knew what we needed to do. We started attending and coming regularly. We then had Kendall dedicated on my first Mother's Day here at Kevel. Then we started talking about joining, but we wanted to do it as a family. This was the one thing that we could do with Lexi to just kind of make our family whole. We were one. It was something that we could do to make it official. So we talked to her, and we wanted to wait till she was ready. I already knew Lexi was saved, but she had not been baptized. So we were just kind of letting it be, not necessarily on her terms, but when she felt comfortable. We didn't want her to be pressured into something that she wasn't ready to do. So she came to us and told us that she was ready to be baptized and that she wanted to join the church with us as a family. So we walked down that same aisle and we joined the church as a family. And we've been coming ever since. But the Lord had more plans for me. He kept pulling me to take more roles and leadership in our church. So I took over the youth and joined more committees and even teach an exercise class here at church. I know He isn't done moving in me. I know He's not done with me. I daily have the urge to find ways to bring more families here, so our kids can have the same experience that I had growing up here in this church. One thing that I've learned is that I just need to let go and let God do His thing. I know it's hard, especially for me, because I am the control person. If I just let go and let God do His thing, I know within His time that we will get there as a church. But my story isn't over yet. It has only just begun. But I'm glad I'm home here with my church family, and that you all get to witness my testimony and how God will continue to move and work in me.